Here we go. Okay. So please, if you've got a sheet of paper, I want you to create a T. So you've divided the paper in half, and you've got a line at the top. And on the left-hand side, I want you to write fiduciary. And then in the other half of the paper, I want you to write administrative. So the left go with fiduciary law, and then the right administrative law. And then down the left-hand side, I want you to put the numbers 1 to 11. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, okay? And then there should be a dividing line there, and we're going to go through and write the elements for fiduciary first, and then we'll write the elements for administrative. And what I'm sharing with you is the architecture structure of administrative law and fiduciary law canons that we've spent quite some time preparing. Okay, so both, for number one, it's just introduction. And then 2, for fiduciary, I want you to write the word office. 3, I want you to write the word officer. 4, I want you to write the word mandate. 5, I want you to write the word deed. 6, I want you to write the word acknowledgement. 7, I want you to write the word agreement. 8, I want you to write the word obligation, and in brackets duty. 9, I want you to write the word perfection. 10, the word prescription. And finally, 11, the word rescription. So I'll go through those again. 1, introduction. 2, office. 3, officer. 4, mandate. 5, deed. 6, acknowledgement. 7, agreement. 8, obligation, brackets duty. 9, perfection. 10, prescription. And 11, rescription. Now we're going to go and put the ones for administrative law, and this will hopefully reveal a hell of a lot for you. So administrative law, just put the word introduction in number 1. And then number 2, put the word agency. Number 3, put the word agent. Number 4, put the word warrant. Number 5, put the word act, and in brackets the word tasks. 6, put the word delivery, and in brackets presumption. 7, put the word contract. 8, put the word procedure. 9, put the word performance. 10, put the word regulations. And 11, put the word arbitration. So how's your list look, Alpha 999?
Good. Just getting it done here. You know, it's interesting. One of the ones that I was going to ask you now, as the occupant of the office of executor, how are we going to go about administrating the estate? And so here you've kind of answered that.
Yeah, this is all coming off, which is going to help you administer the estate. That structure should actually, based on your knowledge, answer a hell of a lot of questions that you probably want to ask me just by being able to compare fiduciary to administrative. Remember, administrative was created as a mirror image of fiduciary. It was designed to abrogate and cover and mimic, obviously, fiduciary, and it is a corruption of fiduciary. So I'm hoping most of your questions will be answered just offline, you looking and comparing from those two lists. Yes?
Yeah, it really does start to... Yeah, that was the other part of my question, and I think that's sort of answered here. I just have to review this, that's all.
All right.
Yeah,
and this will be up, obviously. Yeah, no, thank you for great. You gave me the chance to give that to everyone on the call, so thank you. Good on you. Okay?
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just see if there's a couple more questions in the chat before we go to the next caller. Thanks to everyone for being able to share that. Okay, question, guest 58. once UCADIA currency becomes available to communities, how will counterfeiting be prevented? Okay, well, let me answer by saying what makes counterfeiting work. What makes counterfeiting work is that under the present system, the units of currency are not necessarily permanent unless they are in paper form, where you have serial numbers. But the units themselves, the serial number relates to the instrument and not to the units of currency. Secondly, there is no provenance. That is, there is no history behind it. And third, the emphasis is placed on the paper and not on the location of the value or location of the currency in the account. So this really makes counterfeiting a gold mine for people, because it's saying if you hold a piece of paper, then that in itself is validation that you are the legitimate holder and that there is no provenance. No one can ultimately challenge you and say, well, where'd you get that $50 note from? So what UCADIA is based on is a totally different principle. In the Roman system, they create currency as needed. But under the UCADIan model, all the credit, all the monitor that we will ever need has already been created and is already in the appropriate ledgers. So then it only becomes an issue of its circulation, its use, and its return. And that is managed by provenance. That is to say that every unit of currency cannot be uncreated, and where it has been has a provenance. Now, the power of transparency means that if one is willing to check, then every significant transaction of currency can be validated. So it leaves the counterfeiter only one avenue, and that is if they remain a confidence trickster against people who are unwilling to validate transactions of significant value, then of course there is no way to protect people from their own stupidity. But it does mean that counterfeiting, if people follow just basic steps, is virtually impossible to be effective in UCADIan currencies. So I hope that answers the question for you, guest 58. There was a few elements to explain, but I've tried to explain that as clearly as I can state it. And we will be going through currencies again in coming calls. I'll go to guest 7's question, comment before we get back to Ron. And please, if you want to speak, I would love to hear from you. Please just press *8 #8. We'd love to hear your comments, what you felt of the call tonight, what you feel of the Ritus Verum. If you want to contribute some experience of what's happening for you, please get on, press *8 #8, and we'd love to hear from you. Guest 7, question, comment. You can Google churches in country and have all the contact details so we can all send Ritus Verum to them. Yes, this is an ability that you may want to do. It's entirely up to you what you choose to do. But I appreciate, and I really do appreciate, all that each and every one of you is willing to do. Let's get on to Ron, who's back on, and we'll speak to Ron and anyone else who'd like to talk. Ron, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Frank. Getting back to the will and testament, I forgot to mention that, well, I put this in the general instructions and maybe specific instructions on how to fill the will out, but there's an area in there that you select. The general executive, first position would be you, and then the second, third, and fourth are successor executors. Those cannot be a family member that is in direct line as an heir or a beneficiary. They have to be friends or acquaintances, but not directly in line as an heir or beneficiary. Very important, because that will create a conflict inside the will, and it could get broken by somebody contesting it. So,
good point. Very, very important point. And again, this is the importance not only of being able to give people practical examples, Ron, but the instruction that you're giving is very, very important. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Ron.
Bye.
See you. Bye. Just had a question when we were reading out the framework of administrative law and fiduciary. Jeanette just asks, can I repeat the list for, or number 10 for administrative law? So I'm going to repeat them. I'm going to repeat the administrative law, and then I'll repeat the fiduciary law. So if you're building a list, it can make sense to you. So number 10 on administrative law was regulations, regulation or code in brackets. That was number 10. And the one for fiduciary was prescription or prescript, and in brackets you want to put statutes. So regulations is what administrative law bases it on, or codes, and prescription, which is a word that encompasses deeds, edicts, and orders, and in brackets statutes. So let me read them again, just for those in case you may have missed them. So in administrative law, we went through and we said introduction, number 1. Number 2 was an agency. Number 3 was an agent. Number 4 was warrant. Number 5 was an act, in brackets tasks. Number 6 was delivery, brackets presumption. Number 7 was contract. Number 8 was procedure. Number 9 was performance. Number 10 was regulation, brackets code. And number 11 was arbitration. And then on fiduciary, on number 1 we said introduction. Number 2 was office. Number 3 was officer. Number 4 was mandate. Number 5 was deed. Number 6 was acknowledgement. Number 7 was agreement. Number 8 was obligation, brackets duty. Number 9 was perfection. Number 10 was prescription. And number 11 was rescription. That's R-E-scription, rescription. Okay, so hopefully that helps you in just missing those ones that were missing. Rich64 asked a question, would it not be a great time to go for a new covenant type existence without money and the bondage it brings to our brothers? Look, that is a fair question to ask. And in fact, you've probably seen that there's been a range of discussion on this. Money in itself is not inherently evil. However, the way in which it has been administered pretty much for the last 2,000 years has led to money being a tool of corruption and control. If you don't have money, then what you are removing is a number of key elements required for trade. One is a standard unit of measure. This is one of the functions that money performs, a standard unit of measure. Now, what do we mean by a standard unit of measure? Well, we mean, for example, if we say $10, $100, then money is performing in that way as a standard unit of measure. That means a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. And that is a very, very important function of money. It allows us then to put a price on something and to work out like for like. Now, of course, we could use a barter system without money, and if money wasn't there, then we would be determining some sort of barter system. But in effect, we would be then creating either a temporary form of money or some permanent form that is quasi-money, because even with barter, we need a standard form. If I'm going to sell 3 cows and you've got 10 bushels of wheat, then we have to find some common ground, right? We have to find some common ground. Otherwise, our trade is going to be inequitable. And if the going rate is 2 cows for 10 bushels of wheat, I'd be crazy to give you 4 cows for 10 bushels of wheat, because I would be cheating myself out of more wheat. So the standard unit of money is actually one of its most valuable functions. And it's why ultimately people, when they advocate, getting rid of money, forget that. Another